spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
UAV transmitting.
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy tank is inbound, over. We got company overhead.
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Being overrun.
Enemy.
Enemy troops identified.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy forces.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy armor spotted. Enemy forces. Enemy APC spotted.
Position cleared and under
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter.
Enemy activity, you copy.
Enemy armor spotted. Enemy armor spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Helicopter. Enemy forces spotted.
Over.
Enemy helicopter. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy activity, you copy.
Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy APC.
Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Inbound.
Enemy armor spotted. Enemy APC spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Hostile chopper.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy armor spotted.
Over.
We've lost
Enemy unit forces. Over. Do you copy? Enemy activity, you copy. Inbound. Over. Enemy true. Hostile chopper. Enemy inbound. Hostile chopper identified. Inbound. Over.
enemy.
Enemy troop. troop!
UAV online and
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry. Enemy forces. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy
Helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopters. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Car spotted.
inbound!
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy forces. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy forces. Enemy forces. Enemy forces. Enemy forces. Enemy forces. Spotted. Over. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. We've lost control of an outpost. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted. We've lost enemy armor. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy activity. We got hostile armor! Enemy units on the move! Enemy activity. Do you copy? Enemy
forces spotted.
Enemy tank is inbound, over! Enemy APC! Enemy APC! Enemy units on the move! Enemy
All clear.
activity. Do you copy?
Position under control. Out. Outpost is being overrun.
Enemy units on the move! Enemy APC! We got hostile armor!
UAV online and
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over. Enemy activity. Do you
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry.
Enemy units identified. Inbound.
Enemy helicopter.
Enemy activity.
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. AC spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy forces. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter. AC spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over.
UAV online and transmitted.
Artillery, enemy forces, enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy activity. Do you copy?
Enemy APC spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy APC. Do you copy?
Enemy jet spotted.
Hostiles on the ground. Enemy activity. Do you copy?
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostile infantry. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy helicopter spotted. Identified. Hostiles on the ground. Hostile chopper identified. Enemy activity. Do you copy? Over. Sniper!
Enemy APC spotted.
Enemy air, over.
The enemy is in control.
We're targeted, over. Hostile force, enemy force, over. Enemy air, over. We need reinforcing, do you copy? Sniper!
UAV
Enemy
online.
activity, do you copy?
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy force. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper regained control. Good work, man. Enemy forces.
Enemy active, copy.
Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy
Cleared
tank
and
is
under
inbound,
control.
over.
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy armor. Enemy sniper spotted.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy armor spotted. Enemy units on the move. Enemy tank is inbound, over. Hostile armor
enemy
sighted,
activity.
over. Do you copy? Enemy units on the move. Hostile forces spotted. Enemy forces over. Enemy identified. Enemy forces over. We got company overhead.
Enemy APC spotted.
Hostile jet spotted. Over.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy identified. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move. Running dry. Need ammo.
UAV
Over.
transmitting on this mark.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy armor infantry spotted.
Hostile
Enemy
forces
air
spotted.
assets.
Over.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy armor. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy
Enemy
forces
forces
spotted.
spotted.
Over. Need ammo. Over. Sniper.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces.
Enemy units on the move. You copy? Enemy tank is inbound. Over. Sniper.
UAV
Bingo
online.
on ammo. Do you copy?
Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy activity. Do you copy? Hostile forces. Enemy activity. Over. Do you copy?
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy APC spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
UAV
Enemy
transmitting.
activity. Enemy troop.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostile chopper.
Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostile chopper. Identified. Hostile split. No way, man. Hostile sniper.
Enemy sniper. Enemy infantry. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces. Enemy helicopter spotted.
UAV online and
Enemy
transmitting.
troop. Enemy AP.
Enemy helicopter. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over. Hostiles on the ground. Enemy activity. Enemy cop. Do you copy? Hostile vehicle spotted. Over. Hostiles on the ground. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
APC spotted.
Enemy activity. Enemy troop. Enemy units on the move. Enemy APC. Do you copy? Hostile APC.
Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostiles on the ground.
Enemy helicopter spotted.
Hostiles on the ground.
Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy APC.
Enemy helicopter.
Enemy troops.
Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy activity. Do you copy? Enemy activity. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted.
copy?
Enemy infantry.
Enemy
Enemy helicopter.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy aircraft. Do you copy? Hostile forces. Enemy forces. Over. Enemy units on the move. Enemy spotted. Identified. Enemy ATC identified. Enemy ATC running dry. Enemy units on the move. Spotted. Enemy activity. Do you copy? Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Hostile ATC. 10-4.
Enemy ATC spotted.
Enemy
forces. Enemy infantry spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over. I owe you one. Thanks, champ. Enemy troops. Enemy APC. Do you copy? Enemy units on the move. Enemy forces. Hostiles over. Spotted. Over. Hostiles on the ground. Enemy troops. Enemy troops. Enemy activity. Do you copy?
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy ATC spotted.
A bingo
Enemy
on
infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy ATC spotted. Enemy ATC spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy APC spotted. Enemy APC spotted. Dry.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. APC spotted.
Enemy activity. Do you copy? Select AC.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy
units on the move.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter.
Forces spotted. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry. Enemy helicopter. Enemy infantry.
You bingo on ammo. Do you copy?
Online and
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy ATC. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy activity. Do you copy? Enemy activity. Do you copy?
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy
troops identified.
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Do you copy? Enemy activity. Do you copy?
online and transmitting.
Running dry. Enemy activity. Do you copy? Enemy activity.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted.
Hostile enemy air asset. Over.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Enemy activity. Do you copy?
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy helicopter. Enemy helicopter
Over. Over.
Enemy helicopter. Enemy forces spotted. 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 Enemy forces. Enemy forces.
Over.
Enemy forces spotted.
Good deal. Requesting ammunition. Over.
Enemy forces spotted.
Hostile forces spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Requesting ammunition.
Enemy APC spotted. Enemy jets spotted. Enemy APC spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces.
Sorry. Running dry. Need ammo. Over.
Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted. Enemy helicopter spotted.
Outpost is being overrun.
Enemy forces spotted.
UAV
Hey,
online
thanks.
and
Enemy forces
All
spotted.
clear. Position under control. You got it. Enemy forces. Over. Enemy activity. Do you copy?